Welcome to part 2. Back like we never left. This is my beginner's guide to R.E.P.O. This is level 4 and 5. I'd originally stated in my first part that I was going to break this guide down into 3 level chapters, but after I recorded and started editing, I found that the gameplay gets a little long and drawn out anyway, and I don't necessarily want to cut anything out of the walkthroughs. So what I'm going to do going forward is do just 2 chapters until we get through level 9, and then once we get to level 10, then I'm going to break it down into like one level per chapter. So in this video, I have just level 4 and just level 5, and we're going to get into some newer concepts and maybe touch on a few other things. So as we go along, if you think of any questions that maybe don't get addressed in the videos, please feel free to drop them in the comments and I will get to them. I've even started accumulating some odd clips here and there, different things that I know I haven't talked about and may not talk about in future videos, so that I can even make shorts with like random tips in them once I've completed this. So anyway, back to level 4. Now we have 3 extraction points starting on level 4. Okay, so the game plan is a little different when it comes to dropping the money bags at the extraction points and the order in which we do those. Now, when you have only 1 extraction point or 2 extraction points, obviously you just do the 1 and get out, or you do the first one, second one, then get out. But once you get to 3 extraction points, for the sake of a clean getaway at the end of every level, and this concept goes for when there are 4 extraction points or 5 extraction points as well. It gets a little different, but what I'm starting out with is, of course, you have to clear the first extraction point to get to the second. But on every level where there are at least 3 extraction points, I have found that it greatly increases your success rate of clearing the level. If after you've cleared the first extraction point, you don't go clear the second and then go clear the third and then go back to the truck. The move is you clear this first extraction point, then you take the money bag, drop it off at the closest extraction point to the first one. Then you go clear the third one, then bring that money bag back to the second extraction point, clear them both out, and then you are as close as you can be to the truck, so that means you can make the fastest getaway possible. It took me a long time to figure that out. So for new players just getting started, or maybe just, don't play the game that way, I hope that's helpful to you, and I hope it got to you in a way shorter amount of time than I figured it out. Also, once you get to these levels, common sense is going to tell you the game gets more difficult, the maps get bigger, there are more monsters on each level. So be prepared for that, and before you leave the truck, you want to plan accordingly as far as your weapons and things like that go. Now here we've got a fight with the huntsman. Now that move where I ducked a shot is not a beginner move. Fighting him using that corner to block his shots, I definitely encourage doing things like that with the huntsman. When he shoots his shotgun, he almost never misses, unless you know how to bait the shot and evade it. And even then, I still die sometimes. But for anyone who doesn't know Huntsman, he's a blind guy with a shotgun. He hears really, really well, and he almost never misses when he shoots unless you know how to block or avoid the shots. When you're taking fights with him, having cover around is really good. Like something to strafe left, right, like when you're getting a right-hand peek in a first-person shooter game, or a corner or a large object where you can duck his shots, like that corner that I was fighting in at. Now the move where I ducked down and he shot over me, there are very subtle sound cues, like clicks in his gun and timing in how he shoots. So I pulled kind of a high risk move and it paid off and it looked cool, but I'm telling you, I maybe survived that exact thing 5 or 6 out of 10 times. I'm just glad that I didn't die while I was recording. Yeah, but I was saying, like, you know, with bigger maps and with more monsters on them, when you leave the truck, you want to have some stuff to take fights. You see I've got the frying pan, the duct tape grenade, and the bat. The frying pan is great because I can stun lock any small monster with that. But if you're using the frying pan, you got to know that you can't stun any, like, big monsters with it. Like, the small ones and the medium ones, you can stun and then fight them from there. But you're not going to run up on, like, the tier 3 monsters and do anything to them with the frying pan unless you have a bigger weapon, like the ball bat, where you can damage and stun them with that, and then you can finish off with the frying pan. And that's a good tactic, to use multiple weapons on one monster. That way you don't use up all your charges in like 1 or 2 fights. You kind of spread the charges out between the weapons. So that's a pretty useful tactic as well. Anybody who watched the first part of my beginner's guide, you saw how much like crazy trouble I had with that great big vase. Well, I want to get into like how powerful the drones can be as items to carry. Here I have the feather drone. I talked about a little bit in the first guide. There is no item on the map, size, heaviness, weight, it doesn't matter. There is no item on the map that you can't lift and carry easily if you have the feather drone. Like, it's like the lightest thing in the world. So I've already picked up the feather drone early in the game, just on level 4. That way I don't have to worry about if I have enough strength upgrades to move stuff around. I know with the feather drone, I can move any object around. So life is a lot easier with that. As I go through the game, you'll see I really like to pick up the unbreakable drone, because it does exactly what it says. You can put it on anything, you can on any item, and when you carry it, you can bang it, drop it, throw it, whatever. It won't take any damage. There's also a recharge drone that when I get into maps that have like 4 and 5 levels, I carry it 100% of the time. And we'll see that as I get into later parts of the beginner's guide, deeper levels into the game. Another, I think, cool thing to know, useful bit of information, is when the maps get bigger, you know, the maps determined by the size of the map and the level that you're on, there are a finite amount of monsters that will appear on the map, right? But those monsters will respawn after they die. So you will, in theory, fight and kill the same monsters multiple times. Like, there, you will see more and more monsters, but it's just the same set of monsters that have respawned. So the thing I'm driving at here is, when you kill a monster, you guys know they drop the orb, and you know that has the value that you can trade in at the extraction point. Well, each monster will only drop 3 orbs. Now they'll continue to respawn, and as a matter of fact, the longer you take to clear a map, the faster they respawn. So the game, that's kind of the game's way of punishing you for taking too long. But you might kill the same monster 4 or 5 times, but that specific monster will only drop 3 orbs. So after you kill it the 3rd time, it doesn't drop any more orbs when you kill it. So you really just lose the value of continuing to fight them as if you drag on and spend too much time in one map, which I am sometimes prone to do because I'm way too greedy. And we'll touch on that later as the game goes into deeper levels as well. As the extraction values get higher and higher, there are more items of higher value. So it becomes like really a waste of time when you get deep into the levels to even pick up small things, almost at all. So right now, I'm taking this big vase back to the extraction truck because it's just taking up way too much room in my cart. I'm not going to cash out yet because there's still stuff to get. Well, I don't know. The extraction is 12k. I've got 20k. That's 40k. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. 35k. I also like to recharge my weapons before I go back out. I think that's a pretty good policy to have. And you'll see when I recharge my bat a little bit, it used that the energy crystals in the charging station. I almost never worry about it on levels 2 and 3, but after level 3, you 100% want to start buying and accumulating energy crystals, because that is how you recharge your weapons and your drones and everything. So after level 3, unless you just have like a good amount of money early and there's nothing else really worth buying, or there's just like not much worth buying in the shop after levels 1 and 2, and you have leftover money, because that is when the energy crystals are cheap. So if you have a level where you have like an inordinately big cash out, you want to spend 7k on an energy crystal early, it's not a bad idea if you have it. But level 3, after I finish that, that's when I put the priority on beginning to buy at least a couple energy crystals. And then as the game progresses, I like to keep that meter on my charging station like always at least halfway full. But we'll talk about more about things like in the shop when we get to the shop for sure. Like I did just mention, the energy crystals are very cheap early on. That goes for like all the items. As you go through the game, the items get more expensive. As you accumulate upgrades, they exponentially get more expensive. Like at the beginning of the game, a strength upgrade is like 6k, 8k. You get 8 or 9 levels in, those things are like 30, 40k. But that's just the game. Now, what you're seeing here is this technique I'm going to show you for moving this crate. It's really easy to do if your cart is empty. There, you see that arrow on the side of the box pointing up. It is super important that you keep that arrow pointing up with this box. There's some kind of crazy, angry sounding, aggressive animal, maybe, in this crate, and you do not want to lay it on its side or drop it. If you don't already know, if you do lay it on its side, drop it, anything like that, bang it on a wall or the ground too hard, whatever's in it starts making some crazy noises and shaking around. And no matter where you are on the map, and no matter where every other monster is on the map, they can hear it and they come to where the box is until it stops shaking, right? On top of it loses value. Like you see, it's worth 18k and change. So you don't want it to lose value, and you also don't want every monster on the map to come to you at one time. Now this big crate, it's not very difficult to move. It's not heavy. You do want to be careful, but you can move it pretty easily with just one strength upgrade, and it's not even that hard with no strength upgrades. You just want to be careful to not like let it bang around on stuff. Because like I said, you don't want to damage it or alert the monsters, and I'm going to position that there, set myself up for success. Now we do have some other big stuff out here to get to. Levels 3 and 4 is usually when I don't want to necessarily say set goals, but I try to shoot for like 8 to 10 times whatever the extraction quota is. I try to shoot for like 8 to 10 times that amount for the total that I complete the level with. And as you get deeper, you can pretty much count on 10 to 15 times whatever the extraction quota is. Like, so for example, the quota for this level is like 12,000 and something. So a really good level I would consider would be like 120k. But again, if you just are interested in just getting to the next level, just you can clear the map just getting that minimum amount on each extraction point and get out really fast. I just try to get very high amounts so that I can accumulate more stuff out of the shop faster. You can play it either way though. Now I did go ahead and open that so that I can start loading, like preloading things in there. As you can see, this feather drone is like super useful when you don't have a bunch of strength. Now once you have like 5, 6 strength upgrades, you can move most objects around without too much difficulty. As far as fighting monsters, you can physically throw them around, but there's like a certain amount of strength you need for each tier of monster. I want to say you need 4 or 5 upgrades to throw around like medium and monsters. You need 2 or 3 to throw around small monsters. I know that 9 will move everything except the tier 3 monsters. And then 13, once you get to 13 strength upgrades, you can physically throw any monster around. And that's a really powerful way to fight the monsters too. Now that does change, like the way you can use like your grabbing and throwing them around to fight them. It does change as you get deeper into the game, because there's an element of the game called moon phases, but we'll get into that when that becomes an issue. Those don't kick in until after level 5. So we'll talk about that when it is present in the game. Yeah, so 12k. We cleared 39. We cleared 35 out of the first extraction. So it's about 75 so far. That's not too shabby. That's like a little over 6x. And plus we have items sitting in front of this second extraction. Now, like I said, we're going back to extraction number 2. Now, you can totally do, like, the extractions in order. I've just found it's much easier, like, when you finish the last one close to the truck. Now, you'll see there how I hit him with the bat and then used my grabber to finish him off. And that's like just a useful way to conserve your weapons, conserve your energy charges. What I mentioned earlier about the monsters only giving 3 orbs each, and then after that, they don't drop an orb when you kill them. That really is never an issue until you get to, like, at the very least, the 4 extraction levels. Like, once you get to, like, level 6 and beyond. Because there just aren't enough monsters, and the maps aren't big enough until you get that far in the game. Alright, let's clear this out. This statue is heavy on the bottom, so when you move it around, be careful. If you have to, especially if you have to cover some distance with it, kind of grab it by the middle. Now, you hear that noise that the extraction door is making, and while it's counting up the total, the monsters won't respawn until that total hits. Like that huntsman right there, he wasn't there until that thing hit its final number. But that's okay, because I had a stun grenade and a baseball bat. And I don't have to do this. I could have just cleared the door and ran out, but I'm petty and vindictive. Alright, here are the bullet points. So you can go back and reference the things that are important. And let's go to the shop. $100K is not bad. 100K is not bad at all. That's like 8x. Alright, now I'm immediately going for some strength upgrades and some health. Some energy. Now you'll see they like have like two different amounts. And they just like to be particular, I suppose. But you know, get the cheaper ones first. You know, that's the best value, obviously. Always like to carry some extras in the cart. Always double check around the back of this little area here. I can't tell you how many times I've thrown upgrades and stuff, and then I clear the thing out, get back on the truck, start the engine, and I go to load up my inventory, and I'm missing stuff because I didn't check. I ended up throwing it behind the area. So make sure you double check. Might as well get this little 2K grenade. Alright. So now we've got some weapons. We've got some upgrades. We're already carrying the frying pan and the baseball bat. So we're in pretty good shape. Looks like I have half a pair of pants now. I think I might have that other half a pair in my inventory. Oh well. I'm good with my guy right now. Gonna load up. Okay, you'll see that I have 2 range upgrades there. I want to give you guys a tip on manipulating the upgrades. Okay, you see those range upgrades, that's what those are, and they're orange in color. Well, strength upgrades in the shop are orange as well. When you take an item on the shelf, that same color item won't replace on the shelf until you use it. So if I leave those 2 range upgrades unused, it doesn't guarantee anything because, you know, the upgrades that show up on the shelf are random, but it increases the odds that the next orange items will be strength upgrades and not range upgrades. So that's why they're just sitting there. That goes for any of the blue upgrades and any of the orange upgrades. And that is super good to know if you're looking to get like more strength or more range or extra jumps or whatever. So you can like I said, you can't guarantee anything because it's random, but you can manipulate the probability. And that's a really good way to increase the odds of getting more strength upgrades earlier in the game. You just have to do it without the range upgrades for a few levels. But then when you do get to like the strength upgrade amount that you want, then you just use all the upgrades at once. Now for the first, I don't know, 6 months I played the game, I wouldn't even like get anything except stamina, health, and 9 strength upgrades before I bought. I wouldn't even buy anything else other than, you know, stuff to manipulate the strength. But now that I'm a little better at the game and my playstyle is different, I don't sweat it. I kind of expand the upgrades that I use early in the game. I'm gonna go get these big items out of the cart. And when we come back through this room, I'm going to talk about the pits a little bit. Level 5 is the last of the 3 extraction levels. It will be 4 extraction points after this one. A little thing about moving this crystal ball, as you can see, you immediately see a reflection of yourself when you carry it. And when you're holding that crystal ball, all of your movements are inverted. Okay? So you push back to move forward, forward to move back, left to move right, right to move left. It is really tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Just make sure the cart is close to you when you're going to pick it up, so that it's easier for you to get the cart, because you don't want to be like walking across like 2 or 3 rooms with inverted controls. Trust me, especially when there are pits on the ground. Alright, we're gonna get heading out of here real quick. Get off my porch. Okay, now every map as you go through the game has some version of these pits, these open spaces. Like some of them are in the middle of the floor like that. Some of them are like ledges that will be off to the side. They're some form of a pit, a thing that you can fall in, or that monsters can fall in, or that the cart can fall in. I have lost entire carts full of items in pits before. There are good things and bad things about the pits. Be aware of where they are, okay? I've died in them a whole bunch of times. If you're new to the game, chances are you're going to die in them a bunch of times. On the bright side, that's how you learn where they are. There is no coming back once you hit one of the pits. It's game over, okay? I mean, unless you have a defibro or something like that, but that's another thing. The pits are the end of your game, if you fall in one. Unless you have a defibro or tumble wings or a tumble climb. It's just a bad thing for you to go in. So you want to know where they're located. You want to pay attention once you enter a room and see them. Because you can go from everything being super chill to in a split second running for your life. And if you aren't on some level aware where the pits are, it is super easy when you're running or even fighting a monster to back up into one, to move sideways and fall into one. I mean, I've like just been pushing the cart like upstairs or something. There might be a pit, and just walk right off, and yeah, it gets embarrassing even when nobody's watching. But you can use them to your advantage when you're fighting monsters. You can throw monsters in pits and kill them too. You can hurt them too. As you go farther into the game, it takes more to do damage to the monsters. But up until you, like level 6, you can one-shot the monsters in a pit. If you knock a monster in a pit between level 1 through 5, then they're dead and you get their orb 100% of the time, regardless of the tier of the monster. So there are good things and bad things about them. You just gotta know how to use them and be aware of them when you're around them. Gonna orchestrate this maneuver. It's not a super big first extract. It's not even quite, well, it's just about 2x. But we got a lot of big items in here. And the map's not super big yet. Got a full charge here. I've mentioned it before, but I always keep little extras in the cart. Different grenades and mines and things like that. They do come in handy. And they take up a little bit of space, but in my opinion, they're worth it. Also, the cart gliding movement thing that I've talked about before, be super careful doing that in rooms with pits. Like, I don't do that movement in rooms with pits because it's just a good way to run straight into a pit and have to start back at level 1. See, there are 4 pits in this room. And you can look on your map and it'll show you in the layout like where the pits are in rooms. So that's useful to know. Okay, now just like we did last level, we found the closest extraction point to the beginning of the map. So I'm going to leave the money bag here. And then this is the one that will complete last so that we are closest to the truck to end the level. I don't know how many of you play with teammates, friends, or whatever. But that pink heart potion I picked up, it does some really funny stuff if you're playing with a teammate. If you bust it on them. Here's a quick little random thing that I found out the super hard way. If you're wanting to like sprint jump and clear like an extended area, like going forward or whatever, hold the sprint obviously, but also hold the jump button until you've landed where you're trying to land. It's really no fun to learn that that's what you have to do to clear like a hole in the ground by falling in the hole in the ground because I didn't hold the jump button down. Hope that helps somebody. Okay, we got some action here. Now here's where I carry some of these extras. Okay, this guy's pretty heavy and I'm not strong enough. Okay, so that's a bow tie. You see he like bends over and blows a very strong wind at you. It doesn't do a super huge amount of damage. Like when it hits you, it only does 5 HP. But he can be really dangerous if like he gets you in a corner with that thing. Because it will just like repeat that 5 damage over and over and over and over and over. That's how he gets dangerous. But other than that, he's a pretty weak enemy if you attack him from a distance. Or attack him from behind if he doesn't see you coming. I don't know that I've mentioned it, but you can sneak up on just about any enemy in this game by crouch walking. Like if you're like crouched down and walk around, enemies cannot hear you. And they're also very, very much less likely to see you when you're crouched. Most of the enemies have bad vision. And they all see in like a cone. If you think of like an ice cream cone with the pointy part, if it were right between your eyes, their field of vision goes out like a cone does. So if you know where their field of vision is and you stay below it and how to move around them, and they can't see you and they can't hear you, then you can get away with a lot. Alright, so we found extraction number 3. Now what I'm doing is plotting that dragon skull, getting the dragon skull up here. It's pretty heavy, but I've got this feather drone, so that doesn't matter. The thing is, of the 2 most valuable items in the entire game, the dragon skull is one of them. It could be worth like 40 to 50 something K. Like that's 44. Oh, I just nicked it. It was like 46K to begin with. But you don't want to damage it because like if you nick it one time on a wall or something, you can so easily knock off like 10K of value. And if you hit it a couple times, it can go from like 50K to like 20K in value before you know it. So you want to be super careful. Like on its own, like I said, it's pretty heavy. Now I was just setting it down so I could position it to move it back off of there. See, even just that little damage That tiny little nick took off like almost 14, I mean, yeah, almost 1400. So even still, 43k is like crazy value for one item. But yeah, that item, and then at Mechanic Station, there's this big metal tank. I think it holds like a chemical, like heavy water, and it has the same value set as that dragon skull. Oh, you know what? There's a third one, because on this map, not this exact one we're playing, but on this map, Swiftrum Academy, there's a giant finger, like a severed finger from a giant, that appears sometimes, and it can be worth that much too. So I guess those are the 3 most valuable items in the game. There's also a giant statue of a griffin that is on this map sometimes. It's really valuable, but it can be like 20 to 30k, but it's not as valuable as those other 3 things. Down here in this basement area, you can sometimes find like the biggest items, and it can be a real pain to move them around. But that's, again, that's just another reason why like the feather drone and the unbreakable drone are so powerful. Because you don't have to worry about how big or heavy things are when you have those. See, the quota is 19 and a half almost. So before even finishing a level like this, knowing that the value quota is like 19k, I'm hoping to get like 180k, like for a total map cash out, 180 to 200k. Yeah, good day at the office. This box that's on the wall behind me that I just passed, we're gonna come back and grab it in a second. It's a witch's broom. It's like a witch's broom that's like packaged for retail sale. And there's nothing to moving it around. It's super light. It's not super valuable. It's usually like around 10k. But a useful thing to know about that witch's broom in particular is that it's a broom in a box, okay? And it's a little awkward, but it's not heavy or anything. But it doesn't take much damage at all. Like if you hit it on something, it doesn't take much damage at all to break the box that the broom is in. And if you do that, the broom will float all the way up to the ceiling of whatever room you're in. And it'll just stay there. Unless you can unless you have the range or like jump upgrades to grab it and pull it down. And if you do, the broom still has value. Like if the whole thing undamaged is worth 10k and you break the box, the broom even just by itself, if you can get it to the extraction, will still be worth 8 or 9k. But it's just a tremendous pain to try to get it down if you're in a room with a really high ceiling. So try not to break the box. Where I'm going with that. Now we'll get into it in more detail starting on the next level, level 5. But just while I have a second, I had mentioned earlier the moon phases. Okay, they start at level 5. And every 5 levels you clear after that is another phase of the moon. So for example, after level 5, it's like a quarter moon. After level 10, it's like a half moon. And it goes on to like full moon and then super moon. And the way that gameplay changes when you do that is like, for the first 5 levels, if you throw a monster in a pit, they're dead. You get their orb, right? But after level 5, they take less damage from the pits, right? And then it's every other 5 levels after that, they take even less damage from the pits. Another thing, oh, that was a little move right there. I didn't think about telling you while I was doing it. When you don't have jump upgrades yet, that's how you can get up to higher levels. If there's a door around, break it off and run up and use it as a ramp. Like right there, when I pull my map up, you can see the crescent moon on the right side. That's how you start out the game, right? But after we clear level 5, it'll be the next phase of the moon, and that's when the monsters they'll take less damage from the pits, and also when you grab monsters, if you're moving them around trying to fight them, when you grab them, there will be a meter to where you can only hold on for so long, and then once that meter fills up, there will be like an explosion and you will actually take damage from it. And they basically implemented that in the game several months after it first came out, so that you couldn't just race to 13 strength upgrades and then just throw every monster in the game nonstop. Because until they implemented those, you could do that. Once you got 13 strength upgrades, then you didn't even really need a weapon to fight monsters anymore. So those are the changes that happen with the moon phases in the game. Now, I did that on purpose. I banged, that's a big wine cask. I hit it on the ground to take enough value off to where I could put it in the extract without making the door close. And that's a useful thing to do, you know. If you know you're right there on the edge of where there's just a little bit too much and you don't want the door to shut, knock a little of the value off. Like literally. This sword, if you're ever in a pinch, can be used as a weapon. It's not easy to use. Yo, where'd my wine thing go? Yo, how did it get on the floor? Mysterious. Yo, I vividly remember setting that thing. That's wild. I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I mean, by now you've seen it hundreds of times. When you look around rooms, when your field of vision goes across an item, it makes a little chirp sound and puts a little yellow box around it. Get used to just when you go into rooms, just scan around. Just scan the room and it'll show you where everything is that way. And also, once you have looked at an item and recognize, like, you know, like its location, you will be able to see that item on your map as a yellow dot. So you'll always be able to see where items are that you have already noticed. They will, like, continue to appear on the map as a yellow dot until you put them in your cart. Alright, so we're gonna get this together. That was a little risky, the way that dragon skull was kind of tilted to the side, but we're good. It's not bad, that's not bad. I do still sometimes get, like, turned around, like, lose my sense of direction. I think I've said it before. I sure wish they would put like, some sort of compass, like, in the top corner of the map. Like, when you pull your map up. Just something with a north, south, east, west. I would, in my opinion, just make it a lot easier to navigate the levels. Or I could just not forget where I am. That might help too. Alright, now, before we load up the last extraction, I like to, like, get a little game plan going. So what I'm doing here is I'm, like, lining up my cart so that I don't even have to take the fraction of a second to maneuver around. You know what? I might try to get another monster or two while I'm here because I'm greedy. Now, I don't necessarily, like, advise, like, going hunting like this. Okay, here's an example. That's the tick. The tick will latch onto you, and he will suck all kinds of your HP out of you. But once he has latched onto you, if you just pull out any weapon, anything you're holding in your inventory, he will drop off of you. And if you like smash him immediately, you saw that little green sparkly mist that came out of him. If you smash him and then stand in that really fast, it gives you the HP back after you kill him. And the tick, he will give up an orb, but he will only give up an orb if he has taken 100 of your HP and then you kill him. If he takes 100 of your HP, he lets go on his own. And if you then kill him, then you can get the 100 HP back and the orb. But to me, it's just not worth it for like a 2k orb. It's not worth it. Just let him sit there and take 100 HP out of me. Especially once I get into levels where there's like a lot of monsters. That's just dumb. Okay, I didn't need to throw that duct tape grenade at this guy, but I did, and I don't feel bad about it. All right, so we got the 4,500, and then what was the? Yeah, so we got 11.5K more value. I'll take it. Oh, I knew there was a third thing about the moon phases I forgot earlier. The third thing was as you go farther in the game, you've seen at the end of every level, when you go to the truck at the very end, there's the green light that flashes and it gives you like 50 HP back. Well, after the first phase, I think it only gives you 35. Then after the next phase, it's like 25. And the amount of HP you get back from the truck gets less every 5 levels. But, I mean, once you get 10 or 15 levels in, though, 20 levels in, it doesn't matter because through upgrades, by that point, you should have like 400 or 500 HP. Like when you start a map. So, 25 or 35 HP isn't that important anymore. And you should have backup, like, medkits in your inventory waiting for you in the truck. Okay, so I got hung up on a couple corners. So it's going to be a little maneuvering to get down this hallway, because I know these monsters are waiting. Yeah, see, there they are. There are occasions where sometimes it is better to hide than to fight. Okay? Now, Headman's coming after me. I gotta fight. Yeah. But here we go. These bushes, you can hide in the bushes and monsters can't see you. Now, I dropped my baseball bat, and that can happen. Monsters can knock weapons on your hand. Sometimes you might be... I make mistakes all the time where I might drop a weapon when I'm fighting with it. I know that this frying pan is not going to do anything to Headman or to the bow tie. Now, I have that grenade, but there's no guarantee that that's going to do anything, you know, because with the duct tape grenade, they fly in random directions. So this is one of those situations where it benefits me to hide for a little bit rather than to try to initiate a fight. Now they will roam around, but then they will return to like their random like movement across the map and go somewhere else. So that's what I'm waiting for. Now I just have to get far enough away to where he won't hear me. There's my bat where I dropped it. Alright, now we're good. I don't need anything from in there. Oh, I guess I can charge this. Well, guys, it's been a long one. I appreciate you sticking around for part 2, my beginner's guide. Going forward, I'm going to make them shorter so they're easier to watch and keep up with and hang out for. But I appreciate you all a lot. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time.